Welcome back, everyone. I'm Carrington-Russell, Australian award-winning author of contemporary romance and kick-butt heroines in dark fantasy worlds. Yes, and I have a very special guest for you today. We are talking number one Amazon best-selling author, known for books such as Fear Me and In the Grey. We are talking to the one and only BB Reid. How are you today?
I'm good. I am really good. It's been
I'm
a chill day.
until so have you been working today or have you had a day off, which is also healthy for us?
It was it was a non-planned day off where I literally it's one of those days like it's 4 o'clock here now and I have no idea where my day went or what I did. It was one of those days.
They're
So
one of the
yeah.
best days. They come far and few between, I feel.
Mhm. Exactly.
Take me back to the start of your journey. What made you want to write, and how did you find publishing for the first time?
So it was kind of random. I've always been a voracious reader since I was in junior high, way when I was too young, way too young to be reading these kind of books. And so it got to the point where, I'm just graduated college. It was a few months after and still reading, also working at the job that I managed to get. And I just couldn't find like the type of books I wanted to read. Like it was very hard because this was back in 2014, so we still didn't have, even though indie publishing was booming, we still didn't have as many options as we do now. And so I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna write it. Like didn't really expect it to go anywhere. I thought, this was just gonna be for fun. And then I was done, and I was like, okay, I have to share this with people. So I started Googling like how to sell your book to a publisher. And that's when I found out about indie publishing. All the reading that I did, I had no idea indie publishing was a thing because I wasn't a part of the book community. I was just reading, like, browsing Amazon or the library and reading. And that's kind of how I got started. And so I realized I could publish my book myself. And I did that. I joined Book World, the book community, started befriending people and learned a lot. But it was kind of like I was playing it by ear. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just coasting along. And here I am.
So, the first book, what was the title of that, and was it published in 2014?
And so it was Fear Me, and I wrote it in 2014. I think it was a few days, not a few days, sorry, a few months before my 22nd birthday. And then I published it in January of 2015.
Amazing.
Um, yeah.
You and I, it's interesting. You and I have very similar timelines, is all I'm going to say, when it comes down to age, when it comes down to year of publication. And what I always love to compare to is what the industry looks like now and what it looked like back in 2000 and 2015, 2014 and 2015. It's a very different world. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm curious as to how did you find for those first two, like I knew for the first 2 years, I was just so in that rabbit hole, like discovering all these new things, and there wasn't as much information out there about it. But also, I feel like right now, maybe there's almost too much information to cipher through. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would. It's kind of hard as both a reader to find the books that you're wanting to read, the books that you're looking for and that you can connect to because, there's so many groups, so many communities and then there's also a lot of authors to sift through. So as an author and as a reader, as an author, it's kind of hard to put your book out there in front of people and get them to pay attention. And then as a reader, it's hard to find those books that you're looking for because usually it's like this set number of authors that are getting all of the attention and everyone's talking about them. And it can be very, on both ends, it can be very trying. But, back in 2014, 2015, I wasn't a new romance reader, but I was new to the community. And I was just so much in awe. I was even able to find books that, and get into tropes that I never even heard of, learn things. And I had been reading romance for a long time, and I was learning things in this community that I never even knew had a name to it, such as like bully romance. When I wrote Fear Me is a bully romance. I had no idea it was like a trope. It was a thing. It was just one of those things I just love to read. And so it was a lot friendlier then. I will say it was a lot friendlier. It's still good now, but I think we always get these new wave of readers, and with every wave of readers, the industry changes, and then you get a lot of pushback from older readers, and then you have newer readers that are changing things, and it can be very trying. But there's a lot of great things about this community still, that, are worth being a part of. But I will say I do sometimes miss those old days when it was, not everyone was kind of like it wasn't so much a dog eat dog world. It was just this community of authors helping authors and readers discovering authors and books, and, everybody's just wanting to read. It was just all about the reading then.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm curious as to when you started noticing the snowball effect in your career that you're like, oh shit, I'm a real author. Like people are reading this. And like, when were you able to quit your job?
Oh man, that came early actually. 2016 is when I left my job, and I was like, I started doing the math and I was like, wait, so I'm making way more writing books than I am at this monotonous day job that I'm doing that I don't really enjoy, but it pays the bills. And I'm just like, it was a no-brainer. I had no plan put in place, nothing. I was just like, I'm leaving. The next thing, it was so long ago. I don't remember how it happened. I think with me, I just make snap decisions. Because I don't have kids, I'm not married, so there's not really anyone I need to consider when I do these things. Like it's just me. So it's just like, oh, I'm leaving. And I just gave my notice and that was it. So it was 2016. So I published my first book January 2015, and I think I left my job like June of 2016. Probably published my fifth book. I had just finished up my first series by then because I was addicted to it. I was just writing and writing and writing. Still to this day, I have not been able to publish as many books in 1 year as I did that first year when people were actually buying it and I was making money and people were loving it and they wanted more. And I was so addicted. I couldn't wait to get home after work and write. And it got so bad to the point, I think I was actually at work writing, sneaking and writing at some point. And I was just like, man, I hope they don't find this on my computer, like IT or anything like that. Oh my God. Yeah. So it was a no brainer.
It's so, I love this part of it because there's so many people I have this conversation with. And I know for myself, in the first 2 years, I wrote half of my back catalogue. And I was just so obsessed. You become so obsessed with being able to explore these new worlds and express yourself in a creative way. And then something weird starts happening at about that 2, 3 year turn point is that you
Mm-hmm.
start realizing, okay, this is a business. This is what I have to do for a living. And then you realize, and the time started shifting around then as well, that you have to put more input into social media. You have to change things because the industry started changing around then, just little by little. So how did you keep up with that? And have you ever struggled, I guess, with moments of with burnout or with doubt or beating yourself up for slowing down the writing pace?
That's a great question because I just came off a 2.5 year writing hiatus. And it was actually, I wouldn't say a writing hiatus, I would say publishing because I was still writing, but I was struggling to finish. And it was totally accidental. Like I didn't plan to take a break. I just published Lilac, which by far has been my most successful release. And it did great things. And I'm so competitive with myself. I have to outdo every book, I have to outdo the last one. And if I don't, I'm really disappointed in myself. Or if I'm not so much concerned about writing faster because I do believe in quality over quantity. And I absolutely will not put out a book that I can't stand behind, whether it's really well received or not, whether it's a favorite or if it's not a favorite, people viscerally hate it or they really love it. I'm not going to put out a book that I can't stand behind. So, and that was a good part of why I hadn't published in the last 2.5 years because I was writing, but I couldn't stand behind any of it. And I think it was probably mostly in my head because it got to the point where I got so competitive with myself that I actually burnt out. Like I did it all on my own. I kept trying to race and meet some goal that is very much fleeting and very cyclical. Your career will have, especially in this industry, will have, you'll have your times when you're up and you'll have your times when you're down. And, I just wanted to stay up all the time. And I just felt like I had to reach this goal and I lost my passion for writing. I forgot why I started doing it. When I first started writing for me, I did it for fun. Like I wasn't looking to, become this big author or have these big fancy checks or get a big fancy publishing deal. Like I just wanted to write something fun. Couldn't find what I wanted to read, so I decided to write it. No idea what I was doing. And I lost that passion for it because it all became about numbers. It all became about hitting numbers, hitting rank, making this much amount of money and doing this and, putting out this amount of books per year, at least 2 or maybe 3. Everything was about numbers and none of it was about passion or creativity. And I lost it. And I thought at first it was because of COVID. And yeah, I'm sure it had a little bit to do with that, but being stuck inside. And so actually last year I decided to say, you know what? I'm still going to write, but I'm going to focus on inspiring myself. So I actually packed up my apartment, and this is me once again, just making snap decisions. I packed up my apartment, put everything in storage, drove my cat down to my mom, and I went on the road and I traveled all last year and all over the world. I traveled, I looked for inspiration. I tried to find that spark again, and it worked. It did. And I was finally able to publish In the Gray. In the Gray, I'd worked on that for like a year, and I kept rewriting the beginning and I kept starting over, and I thought it was going to be another project that I ended up deleting eventually, but I stuck with it. So like it can be very hard with burnout. And that's why I also pace myself. I don't try to say I need to publish every couple of months or every this, I publish when I publish, whether it's 1 book a year or 2 books a year. And normally I'm good for 2, and that's a good pace for myself because I want to have fun with the project and I want to be able to stand behind it and give the characters and my readers. I never want to take for my readers' readership for granted and just put something out there and take their money and move on to the next one. Like I want to, because the readers will be able to tell, if, an author actually was passionate about this project, they would be able to tell, like you can tell, or if they just threw something out there for the money, you know?
I also love this because it also shows you as a writer and as a creative how much you need to look after yourself as well. I tip my hat off to some authors who they can through whatever they're experiencing through their personal life continue writing. And whereas there are also those who I want to say are more, I don't want to say in tune, everyone's built differently, but if you have things happening around you or you're being affected in that way, then you can't necessarily just write then and there. It's not going to work. But this is also an important discussion to have and to admit as well, because when you've been doing this for so many years, and I know for myself as well, and other authors can relate, that you do lose that passion because you're so used to looking at deadlines and then putting that pressure on yourself that it doesn't become that passion project that it initially was. So I would usually ask what kind of conversations you had with yourself to get out of that, but I think you answered it in the way of packing up your packing up your apartment and going. So I love that answer.
That's what I did. I was like, okay, like this is getting crazy because it was like at this point, I was like, it's been a year.
Yeah.
It's been a year. I haven't published anything, and it looks like it's about to turn into another year. I have to do something. I can't just continue to sit here and wait for inspiration to come to me. I had to go out there and get it, and I did, and it helped a lot. I had the time of my life. I can't wait to do it again. Maybe not to get myself out of this writing funk, maybe just for fun, but it helped a lot. I did whatever I could because I was passionate about this career, unlike my last one, and I wanted to stay in it and I wanted to keep loving it. And I didn't want it to be all about the numbers because maybe that's not what I was called for. Maybe I was called to write those books that may not be mainstream, that may be super niche, but those readers who are struggling like I was back in 2014 to find the book that they want to read, maybe I was called to write those books. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the books that you're called to write because I am very curious as to what advice you have for authors when it comes to writing bully romance and pushing boundaries. And I am a little bit curious as to whether you were ever nervous about putting that kind of content out in any way that, how people might receive it, especially since BME, you said, was bully romance initially, not that you realized what trope it was at the time. Were you
Mhm.
nervous about putting some books out, or are there some books you think this might be worse, this might be too far?
Honestly, I wasn't because I just, like I said, I didn't think it was gonna go anywhere. So I never, and I did. I got a lot of pushback. I got a lot of emails, like, what message are you trying to send? And I'm like, I'm not trying to send any message. I'm just trying to write this out of the way story that's just, completely far fetched, but it's fun and it's entertaining, then that's it. I wanted to write something that would take people away from real life. And, it had a lot of shock in it, but I wasn't writing for shock value. It was just writing. And it like I had no message behind it. I had no purpose other than just having fun and hoping that someone else connected with the story. And I had this story in my mind. I had these characters, and I just spat it out on page and put it out there, and people connected with it. So I would say my advice is to trust yourself, to write exactly how you want it, because whether it's well received by the masses or only a few, someone is going to be thankful for it. Someone is going to connect. And even if you only connect with that one reader or a handful of readers, you've done your job, and a lot of times they may not connect with it right then. Some books are slow. Some books can be ahead of their time. So my advice is to not worry about necessarily what will sell, because you never know. If you put your passion in it and you only worry about writing, staying true to yourself and writing what comes to mind and just being in the moment, you never know how it will work out for you. So don't worry about outside voices. Just listen to the ones in your head. That's all that matters.
Do you do much guest speaking out of curiosity?
No, I've been invited to, and I've always pretended I never got those invitations. This book release was actually the first time I've ever done live interviews.
Really?
I've gotten invitations to do. I've only ever done like written interviews before, because I was like, I can be a motor mouth. I like always get nervous that I'll say the wrong thing. Or I'll be too nervous. Like I'm just not. So yeah, I've been invited to do like panels and guest speaking, and I'm just like,
I mean, this is just my opinion. What do I know? But I think you'd be really good at it because so many things already in our interview here, you have hit the nail on so many things. Like, for example, when you just said some books are made before their time, that
mhm.
hits home for so many authors because there is a lot of pressure. They think, I need to publish and release this book, and it is going to be the next thing. And when it doesn't, they just think, why am I doing this? Is this what I'm built
Yeah.
for? And then it could be 10 years later that that book goes kaboom for them. It's just crazy how it works like that. So I'm really glad that you raised that point. And I just want everyone to have hope and faith.
Yeah, and there I've seen it a lot of times that a book will like it'll be years old and then suddenly it blows up because the book was just ahead of its time. And it worked out. It may not have worked out immediately, but since when are things worth having ever instantaneous? Like write, stay true to yourself. Don't worry about writing to market. Write this story as it's meant to be told, as your heart tells you to write it, and it will all work out.
Well, then, speaking of From the Heart, tell us a little bit about In the Grey, your recent release. For those who have not yet read it, and they should, what is it about and where do we find it?
Okay, so In the Gray, it's about how to tell this book without spoiling it. This is always the hardest part, how to describe a book and then not spoil everything. So it's about this girl who just lost her father. That's not a spoiler from the blurb. Who just lost her father. She receives this anonymous note telling her to find these men, these four men, and they have the answers that she's seeking. So she follows this anonymous note to the city she's never been to, and she meets these men, and one of them she immediately connects to. She feels this connection with, and it just starts this whirlwind romance. She gets a job at there because they own this mechanic shop, so she gets a job there, and it starts this whirlwind romance between her and her boss. And all the while, she's trying to figure out how she's connected to these men. And there's this dark player in the background who's pulling their strings, and the plot twist is crazy. So I won't go into that, but yeah, it's definitely it's about grief. It's about following your heart. It's about love not being black and white. Sometimes you just have to just trust in your heart and follow it, even if people are telling you it's wrong, even if it may not be good for you. To follow it and see where it goes.
Let's talk about your writing process, Sam, because this sounds like when you said there's a big major plot twist, Are you a plotter or a pantser? Are you planting all these seeds along the way, or you figure
I
them
am
out as you
both.
go?
I
Oh,
am both. So I actually saw this meme earlier where it's like the plotters who were in like this big fancy yacht ship, and then the pantsers who's just doing whatever out in the water, I think paddle boating. And I'm like, that's me, except I start off on the boat. I start off on the boat where I'm plotting and everything's all nice and neat. Then I get excited. And then I stop halfway through and I jump in the water and I'm just doing whatever. I'm just following where the story takes me because you know that thing where it says you make plans and God laughs, where it's the same with except with characters. It's like you make plans and the characters laugh because they're like, haha, I'm gonna do whatever I want to do. So, you know, plotting works for some where they're able to. I feel like plotting and sticking to that outline is good for people who write to a formula. And that's not bad because some people like to stay in their lane. Me, I like to go all over the place. Like there's as a reader, there's almost nothing I won't read. So there's almost nothing I won't write. So I, you know, can get bored writing the same thing over and over again, but I don't want to digress from my point. Um, so I can do both. Like I will write, I will outline, and I outline it very meticulously. Like I even will sometimes draw maps, like even for in the gray, like I have a map of the mechanic shop where a good portion of the book takes place because it's a workplace romance. So I have a layout of that, and I also have a layout of the street. And I will outline like all the details about the characters' birthdays, zodiac signs. I'll do a little summary of their backstory, favorite colors, likes and dislikes, their quirks. A lot of that stuff I will discover while I'm writing. But I always write it down, always make note of it. I'll even mention if I mention it in the story so that I don't erase it or something or forget, because a lot of details are easy to forget for authors. But I also date my scenes because I use Scrivener. I've always used Scrivener, which is a really great writing software. I don't use Microsoft Word to write. And so I'm able to like date my scenes. I'll do like month, date, year. And but as far as writing the story itself, you know, I'll outline the chapters. Usually I'll get excited. And so I'll only outline the first few chapters. And once I have a direction, I just start writing. I just start following where it goes and I just go from there. So I'm both. 1000% both.
again, I'm like, are we the same person? It's kind of weirding
Yeah.
me out, but that's fine.
I even have whiteboards. Like I have 3 whiteboards on my computer behind me so I can keep stuff straight because I'm a visual learner. So in order for me to retain the information, I need to be able to see it. So I will draw things out, I will list things out and work things out in my head, even sometimes the plot. Or if I find myself in a plot hole, it's good for me to be able to write it down and see it and think of different scenarios. If I do this, it will lead the characters here. If I do that, it will lead them here and figure out how it all connects so that I can keep it straight. And it's very helpful to me.
So then, what does your 9 till 5 look like? Because let's be honest, as much as we would love writing to be the only thing that we have to do, it's not. So,
Mhm.
do you have like a routine between 9 and 5, or do you just go with whatever you're feeling that day when it comes to like social media, marketing, all the good stuff as well?
I go with whatever I'm feeling, especially at the beginning of a book where I just, if I feel like writing that day, I write. And because I write long books, but a good portion of my books honestly get written at the 11th hour. Um, so I'll wake up and it can go either way. If I sit on my couch, if I wake up and I sit on my couch, I'm not getting anything done that day. If I want to be productive, I have to avoid my couch. Even if I'm eating breakfast, I have to, if I want to say I want to write that day, I can't even sit on my couch to eat breakfast because I've gotten myself that way before. If I sit on my couch, I'm not getting off that couch for the rest of the day. So in that I will like make breakfast and I'll come to my office and I'll work while I'm eating breakfast. And you know, I also run a website shop. So sometimes I'll start with that. I'll do orders if I have any, or I'll wait until after I'm done writing. Or if I have errands to run, I might do that first. But I've learned a good rule of thumb for me is if I run errands first, I'll get tired by the time I get back and then sit on my couch by mistake. just to catch my breath. And then next thing you know, 6 hours have gone by and I'm like, wow, I forgot to write. Sometimes I do write on my couch. You're laughing.
It's just
It's
so
so
relatable.
true. Yeah. And sometimes I do write on my couch. I don't get as many words written though if I write in front of the TV. So if I really want to bust out some words, like if I want to write like 20 pages in a day, I have to come in here where there are no distractions, there's no TV, nothing to distract me, and where I'm not too comfortable and I'll write. But yeah, if I sit on my couch, it's over with.
Game
So I
over.
have to, if I want to be productive, I have to avoid it at all costs. But when I'm close to my deadline, like maybe a month away from my deadline, that's when it's really Hail Mary time for me. So I'll probably wake up at like 6, 7 in the morning. Depending on if I'm being healthy, I might work out and then come in here, shower, eat, come in straight in here. Don't stop or even look at my couch. My friend calls me Al Bundy because I spend all my time on my couch with no pants on, and that is 1000% me. Yeah, I had to put on pants actually to come talk to you.
I appreciate it. For what it's worth, I'm going to be very honest with you. I am still in my PJ pants. That is the joy of Zoom.
Yeah, I like put on shorts over my pajamas.
I appreciate you.
It's early for you now, right? It's like 6 a.m.
It is. It's 6:30 a.m. Thank you.
Yeah. And I was like, it gotta be really early. I don't fault you at all. It's 4 o'clock and I was still in my pajamas. I like literally put shorts on and I threw a hoodie on to come talk. And I was like, let me brush my hair really quick.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
But yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about being an Amazon #1 best-selling author because that's really cool. And I'm kind of curious as to when you first found out you were on the list, but most importantly, how you celebrated.
So it's kind of crazy. So rank for me, I celebrate, I get happy. I don't know. I kind of switch up how I celebrate, making rank. I usually always do. And for this one, I wasn't sure I was going to. And if I didn't, it was fine because I knew I was taking a lot of chances with In the Gray. And that's what I wanted. Because if I was going to come back after 2.5 years, I was going to come back with something daring. But usually, how I celebrate, I don't know, I'll probably buy myself something nice or I'll go somewhere and take a vacation. I didn't take a vacation this time because I just came off a 2.5 year vacation. So I was like, no vacation time. So this time I celebrated by starting another story. So I've got that writing bug back. So I'm taking advantage of it. Yeah. So this time it wasn't really much for celebrating. It was more so like, okay, it's crunch time. You've got that done because it was huge. Like more than anything, I was excited about the fact that I did it, that I published it in the book. Somehow it seemed like an even bigger accomplishment than when I did my first book because the last 2 years was a struggle. I didn't think I was ever going to be able to do it. So I was just happy. I was just caught up in the fact that I even got it out there, that I finished a book. I was proud of it. People were connecting with it. So, whether it did numbers or not, I was going to be happy about it regardless. So this time was really different for me. Where I was just caught up in the moment and I was also like taking advantage of that by starting another story and keeping that momentum going because I don't want to lose it again.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think you will. I think it's fantastic that you are able to overcome that too, because being completely transparent, not everyone does. Some people hit a wall because this career can be very tiring. It can be taxing as well. There's a lot of highs and lows, and it's quite tedious. Not everyone can necessarily ride that out for the rest of their days, and there is no judgment in that either. It's very difficult. So I am a little bit curious as to what your top three marketing tips would be for fellow authors.
Hmm. You know what? That's a hard one because the industry has changed a lot since because my book before last was Lilac. And it has changed a lot. So when I wasn't publishing, I wasn't super active. So a lot has changed. So I'm kind of learning myself what the top marketing tips are. I think TikTok is a big one. I'm still trying to navigate how to how to, because I'm not a huge social media person on principle. Like I go up there for like inspiration as far as like things outside of books, but I would say your presence is one, being very personable, like because the biggest marketing tool is yourself, being very personable, and being confident but also humble. And I already said TikTok. TikTok is huge. Like I know a lot of people don't like it. I have a love-hate relationship with TikTok myself, but I understand it's here and it seems to be here to stay. So I'm gonna, one of the things to, in order to survive in this industry is when the industry changes, you have to change with it. You can't stay stuck in the past. If you do, you're going to drown. You're gonna drown. You have to swim with the tide. So, or is it swim against the tide? I don't know. I can't swim, but um, I can't swim, so don't take swimming advice from me. But you get what I'm saying.
Should I cut this bit out? I can't swim. I'm just like, I'm kidding.
Don't take swimming advice from me. You guys get what I'm saying. You have to change with the industry. So I would say, as far as what works, I really think a lot of this, I've said it before, I think a lot of it is based on luck. I don't think there is this I think people who tell you you have to stand on one foot and pat your head and rub your stomach at the same time in order to make this rank or these numbers, I think they're selling a dream. And I think that's why a lot of authors, they do these things and when it still doesn't work, they give up.
Yeah.
Because you have people telling them if you do this, then you're going to be successful. But then when they do it and it doesn't work for them, because a lot of it is luck. You can write the best book out there, and if people don't know about it, it goes nowhere. If they're not talking about it, the biggest tool for an author is always word of mouth. So a lot of it is luck. Sometimes it's not enough to write a really great book, to have really strong writing or a really good story. Sometimes, like I said before, you might write a story that's ahead of its time, or I don't even know. So I don't even want to sell something that says, "Oh, you got to do this," and because it doesn't always work that way. Nothing is a surefire plan, and I hate when people tell other authors that, because that's how a lot of them give up, because they say, well, they told me if I do this, I will be, I'll sell a lot of books, but then when it doesn't happen, then the author thinks, well, maybe I'm just not meant to do this. So my advice is to keep writing. Just keep writing and keep putting it out there. If this is what you're meant to do, if this is your passion, someone will notice. Someone will notice, but don't write for the numbers, write for yourself.
I think a common lesson for a lot of people, and I know I've been called out on this personally as well, is that you start to doubt yourself so much if your career, if your numbers aren't exactly where you want them to be. And so instead of listening to other people's advice and adapting it to yourself, you take what they say quite literally, in the sense that they're like, this is what worked for me. And you go, okay, I'm going to write that exact genre or that exact whatever it may be, and then try to blueprint it in some way. And
Mhm.
all I'm going to say is it more than often does not work. If you
Mhm.
adapt it in your own style 100%, that's fantastic. But then I find that this is a lesson for a lot of people to learn, because you just have to stay true to yourself, listen to those advice. And that's why I love listening and interviewing different authors on here, because you see how everyone's path was so different, so many different backgrounds where everyone came from and how they got to this point in their career. Every single one of them got there differently. So
Mhm.
there is no blueprint, basically, I guess is what I have to add to that.
Yeah, because I'm gonna be honest with you. I have no idea what I'm doing. Like I'll write a book. The only thing I know how to do is write. And then as far as the marketing and promoting it, I do my best. I get out there and I tell people why they should read the book. I put it on as many platforms as I can. And yes, I run ads and all of that. And I understand because I have a business degree. So I'm both a creative and I have an ear and eye for business too, but that's why I also understand that you could do everything right as far as the business aspect and still not, because you can't make people hear you. You can't. Sometimes they have to hear you in their own time. They have to hear and see you in their own time. And you have to be patient. You have to be writing because you love it, not because you're chasing this dream. Because then you're most often going to fail because you're expecting it to happen overnight. And you look at these other authors who they seemingly blew up overnight, but was it really overnight, or are you just now finding out about them? They've probably been here all along, writing and hoping and dreaming, and then one day it finally what happened? It finally happened.
Yeah.
So write because you love it. Don't hop on bandwagons. Write the tropes you love. Write about the topics that are important to you, that you know are actually passionate about. Because if you're writing based on marketing, you're not writing, it's something you're not even passionate about, people are going to be able to tell through your writing. They're definitely going to be able to tell, and it's not going to go anywhere. They're not going to scream this book from the hilltops and the mountaintops. And the most powerful tool is still word of mouth. Without that word of mouth, you can run as many ads as you want to. It's not going to do anything. Yeah.
In your career, were there any resources, whether it be podcast groups, courses, books that you might have read that really helped you understand something more clearer or upgrade your level of as an author, to say?
Nope. This has all been trial and error. And me just learning because I've made all these mistakes before. And me, it was just like, usually it's just kind of like an epiphany thing where I just sit back and I like observe not just myself, but also other authors. And I'm seeing and I'm just keeping my eyes and ears open. And I don't talk so much in the book community. I don't really have too much to say, but I listen a lot, you know? And maybe that helps me see more. I don't know, but I don't have it all figured out myself. I have my days where I'm like, what is this for? And then it passes because I love writing and no one's going to take that away from me. Nothing and no one. So, I've had my ups and downs. It's cyclical. It comes. Like no one stays on top forever and no one stays below forever. Like your day will come, your season will come, and it's just not your time yet.
Very inspiring. I'm just like, I can tell like, so many people are going to be listening to this and going, "You're right, BB Reid, we've got this."
You do have it. You do have it. Some authors who are super, super popular and, where great things are happening for them, it took them a while to get there. They might have written 40 books before they got to that one that really hit, or they might have spent 10 years writing that one book and then it paid off. And, it's I feel like it's a gamble. It really is. But you just have to have a passion for writing. You have to be doing this because you actually love it and not because you're chasing some dream.
Yeah.
The dream should be writing, should be creating this world and these characters and sharing it with people. That should be the dream. So, yeah.
I have a question for you. So it's a good old debate that we've had in the industry for a while, and one works for either. But when it comes to Kindle Unlimited versus Wide, and both work for everyone, so I'm curious as to why you feel Kindle Unlimited worked for you, or have you done Wide as well?
I wide and Kindle Unlimited actually. I started off wide and that actually works for me. And then I got curious about Kindle Unlimited. I actually ended up in Kindle Unlimited because my second series, Stolen Duet, didn't go so great. And I thought that maybe if I put it in Kindle Unlimited, I would see a bit more, and not really. And I kind of bounced back and forth, Broken Love and Stolen Duet. And then with When Rivals Play, The Pure and a Puppet, I kind of did Kindle Unlimited exclusively. And that one I did see a huge bump, but it may have had more to do with the book than anything. And I always said that I wouldn't mind being in both. I don't like having all my eggs in one basket. And so I feel like I've just been biding my time until, I had enough books where I could like straddle the fence and whatnot. But I would say you should probably, every author should see for themselves because, what won't work for one author may work for another. So if you have that leeway, try going wide and seeing how it works for you, or try Kindle Unlimited and see if that works better. It's a trial and error thing. So it's like, I don't think one is necessarily guaranteed to give you more income than the other. You never know.
Okay, this is my favorite question to ask. What is the big dream? What is the goal that you're chasing for yourself? The bigger the better.
The big dream. my big dream right now is I'm hoping I can write a fantasy series. I
Yes.
love fantasy. I love it. And I have been, and that's probably what I should have been doing the last 2.5 years. I didn't realize until it was too late. I was like, man, I could have, but I didn't know it was going to be 2.5 years until I published again. But I was like, man, I should have spent that time writing my fantasy book. I've had a series plotted out since like 2017, and I've just been waiting for the time where I can take off and write it. And I think my moment passed and I didn't realize it. So I'm waiting for a new moment, but I don't know. I think I'm waiting for the right moment, and it's never going to be a right moment. But my big dream, fantasy. That's my big dream right now. Yeah. It's not like seeing my book be made into a movie. I'm not really chasing that. I'm not against it, but it's not a huge goal for me. I know some people want to get trade pub deals. Once again, I could take it or leave it, but I just want to be able to look back and see all these books I've read, different types of characters, different types of stories. Like I want to write something for everyone, because I think one good thing about me as a writer, I would say, and I don't mean to sound arrogant when I say this, I don't have a lot of virtues as an author, but I think one good thing about me is that I'm not a one-trick pony. I could literally dip in and out of any space and write just about anything, because there's not too much they won't read about. So I would love to be able to write something for someone. That's a big, huge dream of mine. But that and writing a fantasy series, I really want to write one.
Out of curiosity, we'll look into the future a little bit here. Would you go a pen name or would you say with BB Reid, or you're still unsure? Because that's a big question that a lot of authors have to ask themselves when they go a really different genre.
Wow, I did actually think about that. And I had came up with another pen name, but now I'm not so sure, because this was years ago that I came up with this series, and it's just waiting and collecting dust. And I had actually planned to write it under a different pen name, but I don't know. I may write it under my one pen name. Like, this is who I am. I'm BB Reid, and I don't know if I can handle having to juggle a whole other pen name. I don't think I can handle that. I don't think I could. I think I would be under BB Reid for sure. Yeah.
And I always love asking this question because I think a lot of people, like, for example, I write two completely genres, contemporary romance, dark fantasy romance. They're completely different, but also, much like yourself, I never thought about it twice. Like, I was just like, oh, I'm Kai Carrington-Russell. These are my books. Whereas a lot of people, they do have the pen names and it works well for them. It's just each their own. So I'm always curious as to what conversations people are having with themselves to come to that conclusion and then, being confident in that decision as well.
I think it's them trying to maybe compartmentalize these different types of books that they're writing. But if I were to write a fantasy series, I think romance would still be heavy presence in it, because I know a lot of fantasy novels have elements of romance in it, but it's not the big, like, it's not a huge part of it. Whereas mine would probably be equal parts fantasy and romance. So why do I need to write under a different name? Like, it would be heavy on the romance as much as the fantasy. So no, I would absolutely, but I get why they would do that. I thought so too, like knowing your market and marketing to different people. That's a huge part of business too, is knowing your market. So I can see why. But then it's kind of like if you tell people, who, not necessarily like you have to keep it a secret, but then if you tell people like, oh, this is who I am, I'm writing under this name, then what's the point of even having a second? I can't imagine having to juggle all of different social medias as this person. I can barely handle my social media because I don't have a PA. I probably should get one. I've long needed one, but I have a huge issue delegating too. I'm a bit of a control freak, so I don't see that ever happening. But then it's like you have to manage email, Twitter, TikTok. Every time I turn around, it's a new social media platform popping up. Instagram, Facebook. Then you got your Facebook groups and all of this. Then you got your newsletters. Oh my God, I just can't. And And then you want to go and tag on that with another pen name? No. I can barely handle the one I have now.
You know, I really do like, I appreciate authors who do the, because so I came to the same conclusion as well as you, because I was like, I can't even look after myself, let alone another alter ego of myself. But I think too, when it comes to the pen names, it's like the branding. Like I look at some authors and their social media is so aesthetically pleasing. It's so on point. They're very articulated when they know what they're presenting. I am not that. But I think it's just knowing your strengths as well, because I think a lot of authors, they want to be like that author or whatever it may be, but that's not necessarily your path or story either. So I think keep that in mind when you make the decision too. And I don't think it is as huge as it used to be. Everyone was worried about the also boughts and such on Amazon and how it was affecting that way if you had different genres. I think it's not as, I don't want like, there's no right or wrong. I don't think it's as important as what it was a couple of years ago, especially with TikTok changing the industry so quickly as well. And it has made that much of an impact. So I think you're right to stay true to yourself. And if you can't manage yourself as is, then really consider how much fun it's going to be having two names.
Yeah, exactly. I forgot about the also boss. I forgot how I used to obsess over going through also boss and just waiting to see my book pop up because I was like, this book is going to be a failure if I don't pop up. And I'm like, it took me 6 pages for my book to pop up, and I would just go cry in a corner somewhere. Now I legit forgot about that. Like I don't even concern myself with that. That's wild.
I love that. Isn't that interesting though, reflecting on some of the things that we've done in the past or obsessed over or
That we convinced ourselves was important, right? Yeah.
and now we're just like, 8+ years in, she'll be right.
Yeah. Like we keep telling ourselves we have to do this in order to do that. But here's the thing, not everybody can be on top. Somebody has to be on the bottom. I feel like life is a pyramid. Somebody has to hold the foundation up. And then one day, maybe you at the top. It's cyclical. It keeps going around. And I'm kind of making a circle while trying to make a triangle, but you get what I'm saying. Like it keeps going around and around and around. And everybody has their time, which might be fair. And that's okay. Just if you're going to become an author, know that there are going to be periods where you're down and there are going to be periods when you're up. And my advice to authors, new and experienced, is when you find yourself up, ride that wave and ride it hard. Ride it hard because, oh, that sounded so dirty.
It's like, remind me what books you like.
Write it hard because you never know when it's someone else's turn. And that doesn't mean if your down period may not be as bad as you think it is, where no one is reading your books and you can't support yourself. And it may not even be that bad. It may just be a matter of you're not making as much money as you used to. And, there are other factors to play into that. Look at COVID, look at inflation, look at, Amazon keeps changing the KU payout and the glitch in their reports, and there's always so much going on. Just when you find yourself up, when you find yourself where people can't get enough of your words in your books, ride that wave, ride it hard, be smart with your money always, and just enjoy, take advantage. Because it's cyclical. It's cyclical. No one stays on top forever. Someone's going to come along and everybody's obsessed with that person and they're no longer obsessed with you, or they're still like, you're always going to have your core readers, your diehard readers who, they're going to be there for every book release. And then you're going to have readers who they're like gnats, not to compare them to gnats. I don't mean that insultingly, but like their attention just goes, they're just obsessed with reading. They're consuming anything that they can get their hands on. And it's not personal. It's not personal. They're just voracious readers. They just want to read as many books as they can. And, they're all piling up because there's so many authors and they're just reading what impassions them. And that's why you need to write what impassions you, because you never know if that's what people are reading. If they want, you might be the one to change the industry. You might be the one who creates a whole new trope, who creates a whole new wave. You know what I mean? Because you simply wrote something that impassioned you. That was super, it was a passion project for you, and it worked out. Yeah.
My caption, I think, for this video is going to be ride it hard.
Ride it hard. Ride it hard. That is my advice. If and when you find yourself on top and readers are just loving everything you put out and they can't get enough of your words, ride it hard. That doesn't mean you have to put out a book every month. Just whether you're just constantly promoting that one book or you're following up with a sequel or you're writing another standalone, and just be true to yourself and ride it hard. Ride it really hard. I'm gonna stop saying that. I'm gonna stop saying that.
I do have a segment, so it's called Speed Dating with an Author. So we're going to go on a very romantic date. I lit a candle, I created ambience. But you ready? And I'm glad you brushed your hair for me, although we
Thank
maybe
you. Thank
both
you. I
be.
did. I got pretty for you. Okay.
And basically, what it is 5 rapid questions. Are you ready?
No, let's go.
Okay, awesome. What is the clumsiest moment you've ever had?
Um, on a date?
Yes, now I want to hear it.
Oh my God. I think the clumsiest moment may have been a nipple slip, but I mean,
We've all been there. That's fine.
yeah, sometimes I forget that, I'm pretty busty and
Your date wasn't complaining.
yeah, my date wasn't complaining. No, not at all.
What are the 3 words that best describe you?
Oh man, 3 words that best describe me. I am an a-hole. I am. I am. I'm like I think people have called me funny. It seems weird to call myself funny. Like I'm that type of person who laughs at my own jokes even though I am. I 1000% am the type of person that laughs at my own jokes, but we're not gonna judge me. And antisocial, that does not paint me to be a very good person at all. Can I
That one
change
has a
my
redeeming
answer?
quality.
I'm a social butterfly. Everyone loves me. I just love people. I'm the nicest person ever.
Yes, I agree. What is the song that best describes you?
The song,
Something summery and sweet and all things kind, I'm sure.
oh shoot. Um, this is supposed to be rapid fire, and I really don't know. Oh, so my friend TJ, she said she set my ringtone as Calm Down by Rima, and I don't know who else is on the song because I never heard of it before. So I'm gonna say that because she said I'd be doing the most. I do. I told you one of the reasons why I don't do speaking engagements is that I can go off on rant. And the next thing you know, I'm yelling and I'm upset. And I'm just like, what was I talking about? What happened? Why am I mad?
You have done perfect on here. We love it. I'll have to cut about. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Who has been your favorite character to write and why? And you can only choose one.
Rowdy. He took Karen's place. And this is not me trying to promote my new release. I am not trying to do that. Is an honest to God answer because he is a lot to take. If you can, I call the first 20% of the book the Scorch Trials. If you can get past that, where he is a complete jerk, and he seems like he's just completely unredeemable. If you can get past that, magic happens. But he says some of the most outrageous things. Like he has no filter. Calling him an a-hole is too simple. Like he's very much raw, unfiltered, doesn't care, very brash, and just wild. And I love him because he says the rudest things, but you can't help but laugh because they're so funny. And he's grumpy, and it's like, of course, because I'm grumpy. That's a word to describe me. I'm very much grumpy. One of my nicknames for me by my mom is actually Grouch. So if I had to say my personality matched any one of those, it would have to be Rowdy. And he's just like, he's super grumpy. And of course, when I wrote a grumpy hero, I had to overdo it, where he just hates everybody.
Like, I'm grumpy, he's grumpy, and he's the best.
Mm-hmm. He is the best. He's like that type that says what everybody's thinking, except he's actually crazy enough to say it. Yeah.
I can imagine why you had so much fun writing that though.
Yeah, it's very fun. I miss him already.
What is a unique talent or skill set that you have that not a lot of people know about?
I can eat a lot of chocolate in one day, like
Oh,
a gross amount of chocolate, like a ridiculous, like people would have gotten sick 60 chocolate bars ago amount of chocolate. But is that really a skill?
I think so. I have had so much fun today. So, where do we find you most importantly, and what's up and coming? What do we need to be on the lookout for?
So you can find me mostly on Amazon, Kindle Unlimited for ebooks. You can find some of my paperbacks in Barnes and Nobles, and Amazon. You can also find me on my website. I sell signed paperbacks there. And you can find me as far as social media. You can find me in Readerville. That's my Facebook group. I spend a lot of time in there. Um, you can find me on TikTok. I'm getting the hang of that still. But mostly, yeah, Readerville. If you want to connect to me on a more personal level, I spend a lot of time in there. And up next is BSAUE. The title is a mouthful. That's what I'm writing now. It's a college standalone, so I'm going back to my roots, doing some new adult. I haven't done new adult in a while. And hopefully that will be out this fall. Yes.
That's so exciting. Well, thank you so much again for coming on. And who knows, we might watch this space and see what happens in the next couple of years and get you back on.
Yeah. I had such a great time talking to you.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much. Well, I will love you and leave you, and I hope you have a good day.
You too, Kaya. Thank you.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.